Hello, this is going to be my first video on these weekly videos I want to do about painting tutorials or painting tips. I don't know, the 101 as you want to call it. And in that first video I would like to talk about the wash. Okay, so wash is a technique. So here first I want to show you three examples. This is a miniature. So these are miniatures that I'm painting at this moment. These are the all Militarum Tempestus. It's called the past Stormtroopers. Now they are called Militarum Tempestus, are the metal all miniatures. So what I want to show here is this is a miniature just with the base colors. So you see that it's flat. This is the next stage where I did the washes. Okay, but you see when I apply the washes there are some parts that are really dark. And then this is the last stage, this is the finalist one when I did all the highlights and I cleaned the washes. And why I say to clean the washes? Okay, the wash is a technique where we are going to apply a very thin paint all over the miniature. Later on I will show exactly how I will apply this all over the miniature, and then it will create the shading, most likely. So the first thing that you have to think is the wash have to be darker than the base color, and I would recommend that it's much darker than the base color. For example, for all this miniature, and before doing the metal, if we take out the metal from this equation, but when I'm going to do the wash on this miniature, I'm going to use Agax Air Shade. That is a very dark brown. I will do it all over the place and you will have this final. You see that you will have some areas that are pretty dark and some areas that are lighter, especially, and then it's creating very nice effects. For example, here below the gun you see this shading that it will look like pretty good. Okay, but in some areas, because it's a wash and it's very thin, the paint sometimes tends to go down, to leak down. Okay, so in this way sometimes you can see when you do wash, for example here in that pants, a lot of wash is accumulated in that part. Okay, so what that means that later on you will need to go with the base color and repaint some parts. You see here there is accumulation of wash. So the wash is a technique that is, from my point of view, is cleaner than the dry brush, but it's not clean at all. It's not the cleanest thing. It's just creating a layer that is doing a very nice shading. The same happened to this one. So in some cases you can leave this darker spot. I told you this is a tabletop, but then you need to do the highlights and you need to clean up the wash in some parts to make it more, to avoid dark spots or to make it more realistic sometimes. Okay, then another thing is on metal. For example, here this is a metallic color with a null oil wash. This is a dark wash, a black wash. So these are the washes I use more. So Agax Air Shade I use on red, greens, browns. Okay, on golds sometimes, and sometimes even on this type of iron or metallics to make dirt. I use Null Oil especially on grays, very dark browns, on metallics. Seraphim Sepia is a light brown. I use it a lot on bones, creams, so lighter colors, sometimes on yellows. On yellows you can use orange or you can use Seraphim Sepia depending what is the finishing. For example, in the Helldrake that I painted some days ago, I was using Agax Air Shade on the golden parts and Seraphim Sepia on the yellows. And then others that I'm used sometimes, especially for the skin, here is just a paint the skin color, and I did a wash with Raceland Flesh Shade. It's quite reddish brown color, and sometimes you can use Carlsberg Crimson. Okay, Important, the wash have to be much darker than the original color, than the base color. If not, the effect is not going to be visible. You can go to extreme. For example, I will not recommend to use Agvax Airshade on yellow or Agvax Airshade on orange, because then it's going to be too extreme. Okay, so at least a little bit of theory. So the wash is just to create a shading. In the past, I make the mistake to try to use the wash to make dirtiness or to make like strips down. The wash have a problem. It's so thin that it's very difficult to control. So today I mainly use it for shading. If I want to do other effects like rust effect, or I want to do like chip paint or something like that, I use other colors and other techniques. I will not use washes because the wash is not the best technique. For showing how I do the wash, I want to show other examples, places where I did washes. For example, on these feathers. When you have a surface that have a lot of texture, these feathers here or these ones here, I just doing a wash sometimes is much easier and faster than doing dry brush. Dry brush sometimes you have the problem is you don't apply well, you don't have a good separation between the different strips. While the wash, as you see here, is defining very well the texture. So here, for example, I just paint red and I did a wash with black. Okay, the light is too bright and it's, but from further I think you are going to see better. I also did a wash on the clothes, and then I did the cleaning. Of course, here in the clothes, for example, this type of texture, you do a wash. In that case, I also did black wash, but then you have to clean up the wash with the original base color. Here another example, these feathers. These are painted yellow. Okay, let me see if I can have better. So these feathers are painted yellow, and then just a wash on orange. And you will find a tutorial in my channel, so I can put the link below if you're interested on that, or if you want to know more. This is just yellow with a wash on orange. And this one was paint flesh, and then I did the first wash with red to give this reddish glaze on the skin. So I start with red. Okay, so as you see, wash can be used for different techniques, can be used in very different ways, but the main purpose is to give shadings, and it's working very well when you have tiny or you have a lot of texture on the miniature, like feathers. Hair is another example where you can use washes, and faces I think is ones where you have the best. So I would recommend always to do a wash on the face, because it will give you, and you will be, all the details are going to be much easier to see. So okay, so this is some uses of the wash on armor plates, especially here. I also have another tutorial explaining how to do the chainmail, but you see here is just silver and a wash of black. In the past I used to dry brush silver or iron on top of that, and the result was not as good as doing the other way around. You paint everything in silver, you can do dry brush, and then you exaggerate with the wash, and then at the end you can do a very soft touch of dry brush, but the wash is almost giving 90% of the texture. Okay, so wash, summarizing, is a technique to pop up details, and it's a technique to make shading. Is not, at least I don't recommend to use a wash to make dirt or to make rust. One watch out I want to share with you. When you have a big flat surface like in tanks, wash may not be the best technique to use, because you can have these watery effects. Okay, you will have no consistency. The wash is too thin, will not give consistent shading all over flat surfaces. Okay, we see here, for me in that case was not a problem, but will give you this type of, I call like water effects, or this type of irregular shadings on flat surfaces. The washes, as I say, work very well when you have texture, when you have yeah, especially when you have texture, for example, here on the tracks, very nice result. But if I do a wash all over this flat surface, you're going to see a lot of marks and a lot of strange effects. Okay, it's like here. So I was liking that because the contrast was not that big, and I think was making a light contrast. But you have to be careful when you use it on flat surfaces. If the wash is too dark compared to the base color, you can have very irregular effects that are not desirable. Okay, so just some clarification and some tips on how to use wash. So here you see also on metallics is working very well, especially the black wash on top of this type of metallics. Okay, and now I will go to a practical use of how to apply the wash. Now what I'm going to do, I will apply the wash on this miniature. I will apply Agvex Air Shade. You will see that in my videos I mainly use Citadel paints. It's because are the paints where that I feel more comfortable using, and are the paints that I use most in my hobby, and because I have very nice results, I didn't bother to change. Now the companies do washes. I'm very familiar with that one, so, and I also very familiar with the names, although they changed the names recently, but I get familiar again with the names and the color schemes and how they match one to each other. So this is why I'm using Citadel, is because of familiarity. And I think they give very nice results, the color is very liveful, and it's the type of colors that I like to use. So how to apply wash? I will use this standard brush. To do that, I water a little bit my brush first, just a little bit to not have it completely dry, and then I will start applying the wash just with, in that case, all over the miniature from top to bottom. So you apply in a way that you avoid that the wash is accumulated in some parts. You can leave it a little bit accumulated maybe on the crevices. So but what is important is that you apply a uniform layer. Once the wash is dry, it's very difficult to make a second layer before matching completely. So it's going to be, you will notice if you do a second layer and some spot was not washed before, that this spot have been washed later on, and maybe it's not matching very well. So it's important that this layer is applied all over the miniature, or all I will say all over the part that you want to wash. If, for example, on the case of the feathers, it's important that all the feathers are uniform wash. In that case, because I applied the wash all over the miniature, because I apply the same wash for these colors, I have to be sure that I don't leave any spot. Okay? And I start top from bottom because the paint tries to drip down. So if you start from bottom, you apply a lot on the bottom, and then once you start dripping, you will accumulate too much paint at the bottom. So this is why I like to start top from bottom. You will see anyway that the wash will tend to go down. So, in that case, I will also wash a little bit this stone to make it more brown. So you see it's quite a straightforward technique. You don't need precision. Will look very shiny at the beginning, don't worry. These washes from Citadel are very matte once they dry, are very good. Only you can have some brights, or if the wash is accumulated too much in some spots, but normally they give very fine and very nice result. Okay, so wash, I think is today these washes from Citadel work very well. I used to use the inks they had before. They were very shiny sometimes, and depending what you wanted to wash were not working very well. I think they make a big change when they create the washes for first time, and I'm talking about maybe 6-7 years ago or even more time ago, and now these washes work perfectly. So you see, it's straightforward. I just apply all over the place. Now what is important is that you leave the miniature aside and you wait until the wash is completely dry. If you see that for example here, I put too much wash, and it's accumulated at the bottom of the food, you dry your brush and just go here and you take it out. Okay, you can do the same if you see that in some areas it's accumulated, so maybe you want to, here for example I don't want too much wash, I just go with the brush completely dry, I take it out here at the front. If you see that it's too much, you go with the brush and take it out. So you can know if you have applied too much, you can take it out. You see, it's very easy to take the wash out. You will see that it's accumulated again because normally the paint is dripping from the top parts. So it's quite normal, and you have to, and based on experience and how and painting miniatures, you will see how to take. So I would recommend that once the wash is completely applied, you look that the wash is not accumulated too much in some parts, and you ensure that all the wash is applied uniform to all the regions or parts of the miniature that you want to be washed completely. Okay, and then I will explain why wash is not working. For example, here I will explain this. I will just put the wash here on these feathers to show that I will just apply aqueous wash. That you see, just applying the wash here, you have very nice paint. So this wash is very useful when you have this type of textures. I don't mind to dare this miniature. I will paint it later on right again, but this was just to show you that wash on these parts are working very well. Okay, and then the other question is why wash cannot be used, and here on these eggs I will try to show what is the problem when you try to make strips with the wash. The problem is that when you try to make a strip with the wash, well, here you can do strips like that, but okay, but sometimes you want them to blend better. So, and if you start accumulating too much, so this is a way to make some dirtiness. So you need more control when you want to do dirtiness like that. Okay, but I will show all techniques using powders that make this easier. So when you want to make dirt effects, like what I'm doing here on these eggs, just start from top and let it, you should paint it. Okay, you can make, in that case I'm just doing high contrast because I want to show you how to do it, but you can, if you see that it's too thick, then you need the original color. You have to play with the original color to make it thinner, and to make and this is why I think using powders like a wash, making wash with powders are making the life easier, because easily you can have this type of problem like here that are too thick and then you have to rework. Okay, so there is a way to make this type of dirt with washes. The thing that is, you need control. Maybe you need a thinner brush. I was still using the standard, but you need a very nice tip. So you can use also this one here. You need I will use, for example, here on the cape. So you need a very nice tip, and you have to avoid to put too much. If you put too much, then the line is too strong. Okay, so you can, so this is why I don't like to use a lot of wash, because you start having these watery effects. I prefer to use other type of techniques to make dirt. Okay, but you can also use wash, but you have to have a lot of control, and you have to have a lot of experience to start doing this type. Here it was working much better how to do this type of lines down. Okay, so this is all for the wash, how to use washes. I think for me the main way to use washes is to show texture. Here this one is dry, so you see now the texture is completely visible, and the other way is to create the shading of the miniature. So that's all for this video. I hope you find it useful and informative. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and see you again later. Bye!